Right now, there's a triple whammy of viruses happening in the United States, and it's particularly led to increased hospitalizations in the East Coast of the United States. And the triple whammy of viruses is COVID-19, influenza, which is the regular flu, and something called RSV, which is a respiratory virus. It's particularly a problem. RSV is particularly a problem for young kids and the elderly. Today, I will discuss herbs and vitamins to fight influenza, RSV, and COVID 19. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this, and be sure to hit the alert button to be notified of new videos each week. And the first one I want to talk about is homeopathy. Now, homeopathy was founded about 300 years ago in Germany. And the whole principle is like cures like. And so it was believed or thought of that minute amounts of what causes a disease can actually cure a disease. And so one of the uses of homeopathy is for flus such as influenza, but also other viral infections such as influenza. For COVID-19, I don't really think homeopathy or herbs, standard herbs, are strong enough. And so I do recommend if somebody has acute influenza, acute RSV, or acute COVID-19 that you do seek medical attention. So the main homeopathy that's been researched for helping people recover from flu is based upon wild duck heart and liver extract. And so you take little pellets under your tongue of this patented remedy, and this is said to help kick or help resolve flu symptoms quicker. And of course, these are minute amounts of therapeutic substances. So it's thought to help the body's healing response to increase. And so, when would homeopathy come in? Well, number one, if you believe in homeopathy, that would be a great way to start using homeopathy. Another way of using homeopathy or thinking about it is, let's say you have cold, flus, or allergies, and either they're not responding to standard herbs or nutrients, or maybe you get a lot of colds and flus and they're just stop responding, which does happen. So, and then you want to try to change the course and do something totally different, and that would be homeopathy. And so, in addition to the homeopathy made out of duck hearts and liver extracts, there's other more plant-based cold and flu remedies available in homeopathy. Where do we get homeopathy? Well, the best way to get it is from a homeopath, but we can also there are also homeopathic pharmacies in the United States, and there's one that I've been into many times in Santa Monica. It's really quite good. Now, the next herb I want to talk about, or next ingredient I want to talk about, is echinacea. And I want to read you something from the Therapeutic Research Center. So, echinacea may exhibit antiviral activity against influenza virus, stomach virus, herpes simplex virus, and then preliminary research of viruses from nasal secretions indicate that Echinacea purpurea, which is one of the species of Echinacea, might help to envelop viruses such as corona, influenza, parainfluenza virus, and a type of pneumonia virus. And so the interesting thing is that echinacea works on the immune system, and it seems to target the two aspects of immunity, non-specific and specific immunity. And so in studies, they did one study with patients in Europe, and I believe they used echinacea tablets for 4 months. And they were able to show that using nasal swabs, that people that using echinacea for 4 months had much less incidence of COVID-19 and other respiratory viruses. So the bottom line is echinacea works quite well as a flu treatment and a flu prevention. One of the things I would say is that you can take echinacea in either dropper bottles, or you can take it in capsules, or in tablets. It's rather bitter, so I don't recommend it in tea. And the most important take home message is take echinacea early. It works at the best stages of a cold or flu. Some serious herbalists that I know seem to believe that echinacea works better for viral conditions rather than for cold, the common cold virus. And then another thing is that what I've practiced since the 1980s, echinacea is not a long-term herb. And so when we hear people using echinacea for months or years for MS, and sometimes the results aren't very good, that's because echinacea is a short-term herb. So what I suggest is don't use echinacea except when you feel like you're coming down with the cold or flu, and then be prepared to take a big dosage every few hours. And then the final take home message I'll give you about echinacea is that there are at least, last time I heard, there were about 6 different species of echinacea used medicinally. But the top three are Angustifolia, Purpurea, and Pallida. And all three grow in the United States, but for reasons I don't quite understand, is Purpurea is the main species that grows in Europe, and that's the main species that they study. Uh, a Native American herbalist that I studied with believed that Angustifolia was actually more potent than Purpurea, and that herbalist actually used a combination of Angustifolia and Purpurea in his preparations. So I do think that echinacea is a really fine herb to be considered if you do have a virus or you're trying to protect your family from virus. So the next one I want to talk about is something that you may not have heard of, and it's called propolis. And what propolis is, it's a resin that contains a mixture of bee saliva and substances, beeswax, and substances from plants and trees. And in a study published in Phytotherapy Research, basically they talk about how uh, propolis is effective against rhinoviruses, influenza, which is the flu, and also the RSV virus, which is a respiratory virus. I actually read the original studies out of Brazil, and they used a species of propolis called, I believe it was called green propolis. And they actually showed that hospitalized patients in Brazil using oral dosages of propolis had shorter hospitalizations and less respiratory symptoms than those people who in the control group that didn't contain any propolis. So I think propolis is a really interesting antiviral that you might want to put into your medicine chest, your herbal medicine chest. Now, I've sort of alluded this, so I'll just take a quick sidebar to explain that what you'll find out is people that have weaker immune systems, as well as children and elderly patients, is that if they typically get colds and flus more than the rest of us. And I have a depressed immune system, so I'm in that group. So I get more colds and flus than the rest of us. And then what can happen is our body can get used to something we use for colds and flus. So I basically use echinacea and golden seal for many, many, many colds and flus. Well, it stopped working even when I increased the dosage. So what did I do? I started using Chinese herbs for colds and flus. And then my body get used to that. Now I'm back to some of these other substances. So bottom line is that it's not that you took a bad remedy, but your body got too used to the remedy and therefore it stopped working for you. Propolis has many other benefits, including wound healing and also for allergies, but I won't go into those today. So the next one I want to talk about is colostrum. Now, most of the colostrum that's sold commercially is a bovine colostrum. It's from cows. But in the early days of AIDS, we actually used goat colostrum, fresh goat colostrum for people with AIDS. And colostrum is a great substance. It's the very first mammalian mother's milk. And it's typically collected for 24 to 48 hours. and ethical people are making sure that the cows get enough colostrum, that they're not depriving of the infant cows of the colostrum. What colostrum does, it in humans as well as other mammals, is it jumpstarts the immune system. And so the benefit is that there are some wonderful immune substances in colostrum, and it also is very rich in probiotic activity as well. Now, what's so exciting is that it treats gastrointestinal disease, it treats diarrhea, and it's also been found in an Italian study to have a stronger protective role against influenza than vaccination. And they found that the colostrum actually worked better than vaccination for influenza. So colostrum is one of those substances that I do recommend that you take if you have a weak immune system, that you take it on a daily basis to build up your immunity. And then if you have diarrhea or you do come down with a cold or flu, that you increase the dosage. The only thing is that colostrum does have trace amounts of milk, and so people who are highly sensitive to milk may not be able to tolerate colostrum. In my own experience, something like 80 or 90% of the people who are dairy sensitive can still tolerate colostrum. And that's because if it's a dairy product, it's a very weak dairy product. It's mostly an immune substance. Now, to round out our talk on proven flu fighters, we have, of course, vitamins A, vitamin C, and vitamin D, and then we also have zinc. And of the four that I've just mentioned, I believe zinc is probably the most studied and most widely regarded as something that helps you fight colds and flus. And there are, I'm sure you've seen them, there are actually lozenges, zinc lozenges. Sometimes I've seen zinc lozenges, I believe, with propolis that help, and you chew them up chew them up, and then it basically helps can help prevent influenza as well as colds, and also can shorten the duration. So zinc is a really heavy hitter. Now, vitamin C, on the other hand, since the 1960s, and Linus Pauling got the Nobel Prize for his work on vitamin C, I haven't really gotten great results with vitamin C, and that's why I chiefly use herbs, nutrients, and sometimes homeopathy for colds and flus. So, but there is a caveat. Intravenous vitamin C seems to be one of the best things in the natural toolkit for helping people recover from long COVID. So consider vitamin C intravenously, and then if you still, believe in it, a couple grams a day should have an immune protective effect. The heavy hitters here are vitamin A, which is one of the things that they used to use in Western medicine before the advent of antibiotics to help people recover from viral infections. And then vitamin D, most of us know that that also can help prevent against viruses, especially if we take around 1 to 2,000 IU a day as a preventive, and then we may take a higher dosage as recommended by your health professional for actual cold and flu treatment. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is herbs and acupuncture. So, what you may not know is that herbalists and acupuncturists can actually treat influenza, RSV, and long COVID. So if somebody has a high fever and they basically are really, really sick, they should first seek out Western medicine. But if a person is not able to get into Western medicine, or let's say they don't have COVID, they might have RSV or they may have influenza. One of the things is they can go to an acupuncturist and get an acupuncture treatment, and that will help people feel better. In some cases, they may be able to call the herbalist or acupuncturist, and the herbalist or acupuncturist could tell them what treatments to take to help them recover from the cold or flu more readily. But I want to mention this because in standard mainstream medicine, there's no way to treat colds and flus. They've just developed drugs like Tamiflu for acute influenza and drugs for COVID-19. But generally, they want to call the prescription into a pharmacy rather than have you actually go into the clinic. This concludes today's talk on herbs and vitamins to fight influenza, RSV, and COVID-19. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this, and be sure to hit the alert button to be notified of new videos each week.